Welcome to the Lounge with Travefy Academy, where we get to hear from travel industry voices and experts to learn more about their story and what they see on the horizon for travel professionals. And I'm Stephanie Grice, and our guests today are Sandra Weinacht and also her daughter, Taya. So Sandra and Taya, thank you so much for joining us here today. And also I should mention, Sandra is the founder of Inside Europe. So you might have seen her on previous Travefy Academy webinars as well. So we love working with Inside Europe. So just want to welcome you both to the lounge here today, and thanks for joining us. We're really, really excited to learn about your recent travels to Greece, and then just hear, what others can expect when planning travel and, going there. So we're excited to have you here today.
Well, thank you for having us, Stephanie. By the way, Taya's middle name is also Stephanie.
Yeah.
Oh, what a perfect name. That is awesome. I love that. So cool. But I know that, so Sandra, you've been to Greece before, but Taya, this was your first time, right?
Yes.
Oh, that's so exciting. So tell us, where did you guys go?
We went to Athens, Mykonos, Tinos, Paros, and Crete, I think.
Mhm.
And Santorini, yes.
That is awesome. So the big question here is, what was it like? What was it like traveling there right now? Was it busy, a lot of tourists? What can people expect?
It was kind of busy, but not as it normally would be before COVID and all that. But so there were less people, which was nice. So you had more area to walk around and not be crowded by all the tourists just walking around everywhere. And it was more laid back, and yeah.
Yeah, so from, a perspective of, for Taya, it was the first time, and what she thought was crowded was still nothing compared to what you would normally have in Santorini. So when we were in Santorini, there were 2 cruise ships in town that night. In the old days, pre-COVID, it used to be a lot more, and a lot more people got off ship. So it is quite a unique time to be in Greece, especially in those tourist hotspots, without the crowds. It's also, you see that a lot of the hotels are not fully open. Some didn't even open at all just yet because they cater mainly to the American market and there's not enough demand. But it's nice to be back in Greece. It's nice to be back traveling. And didn't we experience that people were really excited to welcome us?
The locals and the people working in the hotels and restaurants, they were very happy to see tourists again and get to hear stories from where they're from and all that.
Yeah, that's really cool. I bet they're excited to see it. It's just kind of that opening, the door is opening now, which is really awesome and really exciting. And were there any travel challenges that anyone should be aware of just when they're planning travel there or once they get there?
Yeah, so there are a lot of challenges when it comes to traveling right now. So first and foremost, the people that have it the easiest are those that are fully vaccinated. And with fully vaccinated, as we know now, it's not just having had your 2 shots, but having had your 2 weeks after your second shot. If you're going for the 2 dose, obviously, if you would have the 1 dose, then it's the 14 days after that. And it's really being checked. When you travel to Greece, you also have to fill out a PLF, a passenger locator form. That's really, really important. And then also when you get to Greece or how you get to Greece may influence which other requirements apply to you. So there was just a story in CNN about one of their riders who went on a summer vacation to Greece with her boys and her husband, not knowing she needed a PLF, not knowing she needed a PCR, an antigen test going through Germany, and almost not going on her vacation. Now, she didn't use a travel advisor, clearly, and she should have. So yeah, there's a lot more to know and to prep for. And then you also have to be prepared for things changing while you're actually in destination, because that also happened last week and threw a curveball for some.
Yeah, that's really true. And for travel agents and travel advisors listening, what are some of the important things that you think they should be aware of when planning, or if they're talking to clients who are interested in traveling to Greece, but they have a lot of questions? Is there anything that advisors need to keep top of mind?
Yeah, I think it's really now more so than ever. It's very, very important to stay on top of the news, to check daily, to read, Greece visit Greece.gr, the Greek Tourism Board, their initiative from Health First. There's a lot of website, there's a lot of information out there. Some of it might be confusing, but it's better to read more than less these days. And I think when it comes to the clients that are wanting to travel right now, maybe make sure that they're the ones that are a little bit flexible, that they don't have a tight schedule. Because if something like what happened last week is when the Greek government introduced on Friday that as of Monday, everybody that uses any form of public transportation, be it a flight domestically, being it a ferry, being it even getting on a bus, needs to have a PCR or an antigen test if they're not fully vaccinated, and complete a form in order to go along with that. That can, that can make it tight. So if all of a sudden you plan on seeing 2 different islands in one day, the validity of your test may be sufficient for the first boat, but not for the second. Then you have to get a test. Where do you get the test? What are the hours of those tests? So I think slowing down a little bit is a good advice that travel advisors can give to their clients. In the old days, you would do, one night Athens, one night Mykonos, one night Santorini, hop on, go over to Croatia. Maybe take it a little bit easier. And with that being said, we didn't take it easy because this was mainly a vacation. And Thea can tell you how stressful it is to pack, unpack, and hop on those ferries, especially those ferries. It's not glamorous to island hop in Greece by no means, unless you do a private charter.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes a ton of sense. And what was it like getting the test? So was it quick and easy, or did it take a little bit of time?
So we're actually both fully vaccinated. So in our case,
so you didn't have to.
Tests. Yes, but at the same time, a friend of mine, Kirsten Maxwell, she just traveled with her family. She's a mom of 3. She also has a blog, if I may make a reference to that. It's called Kids Are a Trip, and she's putting a lot of helpful advice out there on it. And so the 4 of them were vaccinated. The youngest one wasn't yet. So they got to Greece and left Greece before it had to be an official test. So originally it was just a self-test that you had to do and fill out the forms in accordance to that. But it is fairly easy to get those tests. There's lots of clinics all over the place. However, there's also different charges with those tests, depending on where you go. You want to go to the public hospital, which it's very affordable there, but who wants to go to a public hospital right now?
Yeah, no, that does make sense. And if you do, something that I've been wondering is, so you have your vaccination card, but what happens if you do happen to lose it? Do you know what happens? Like, is it treated kind of like a passport and you need to go to an embassy, or do you know how that works?
So I thankfully have not yet heard of anybody losing their cards, but I do highly recommend to take pictures and photocopies. I don't think you can replace your card very, very easily, to be honest. And people are also slightly confused when they see our American cards versus the European certificate, which is already digitalized. It's a QR code, you pull it up. So when they see our little paper forms, especially the first time I went to Greece, now almost 4 weeks ago, people didn't know what this was.
Yeah. So when you went 4 weeks ago, was it completely different than almost going just recently, or has it changed very quickly? Or when did they start allowing more tourists exactly?
They opened up mid-May, and there was a small delay. So it's more closer towards the end of May. And then I believe American Airlines didn't start flying in until the 4th of June. So there were no direct flights before that. And going in before was quite difficult because you had to go through other countries that wouldn't really allow Americans to transit at the time. The benefit that we both have is we both have German passports as well. So that made it a little bit easier. And I thought it was really important this time around to walk the walk more so than ever, to really see what it was like. And we had some travelers that were, oh my God, I can't wait to get on that plane. I want to go to Greece. And I was like, well, let me see what's going on. And so the biggest difference that I also think made it very pleasant for Thea versus the first time around I went, it wasn't so great. You had to wear your masks outside originally. Mm-hmm. So the mask rule is still in effect when you're in crowded places, when you use transportation of any means, and as you walk through the restaurants to go to the bathrooms. But when I was there the first time around, you had to wear your masks outside. So imagine visiting the Acropolis in a balmy 90 degrees, 80% humidity with masks on. So thankfully for us, that rule was lifted. Some of the locals will still wear it at all times, but could you have imagined wearing your mask the whole time in the
No, not
Acropolis?
at all. It's already hard wearing it like to go in there because in like restaurants or like hotels because it's so hot there.
Yeah, that would be pretty brutal. That's what I was telling you. I was just in New York City this past weekend, and it wasn't as hot as usual. But I was thinking about and they don't have masks as much right now outside in that. But there were a couple times like when you get on a boat and stuff, and you would have to wear your mask, and on the ferry, and it's like it is a little challenging. That's something you definitely have to get used to. So that's a good point there. And you also had mentioned before about a lot of like restaurants being closed still, and those hotels that have a lot of American tourists normally. So what was it hard to find sometimes places to eat or things, or did you plan on doing something and then realize you couldn't do it or anything like that?
So for us, no. But I think if you would travel in a larger group right now, or you travel with an extended family, something important to remember is that there's capacity restrictions at certain sites. For example, the Archaeological Museum in Heraklion, which is magical, but it's rather small. They only allow 8 people at a time.
Wow.
So now imagine there's 24 of you. It's quite a while, or you have to drink a lot of Freddo cappuccinos while group number 1 waits for group number 3 to eventually make it through. Now, big areas like the Acropolis or the Palace of Knossos, those big open air areas, it's easier. And what I saw as a big difference is when we visited in mid-May, there was hardly anybody there. While when Thea and I returned this time, it was quite a few people, I would say. It would be a few hundred. Now, in the days before, it would be thousands of people at the Acropolis at the same time.
Yeah, that's a huge difference. But almost did you kind of like that because it's less people, so it was just easier to move around?
Yeah, it was so much better. Like you could actually see things and it wasn't just people everywhere. And you could actually like enjoy the views and look at the history and read the signs and learn. And it was so much nicer.
Yeah,
That
it
is
has
really
its
cool.
I mean, it's been a devastating time for our industry. We're not even going to go into that. And I still believe we have a long road ahead, because it's not everybody's ready, and I can fully understand it. And I think it's on both sides. So everybody is excited that tourists are slowly moving again, travelers are coming. But we didn't have any issues with finding restaurants. There's no issues with hotels. Even some hotels were at capacity the second time around that I came, because also June, July are traditionally high seasons, especially for Athens and the islands, the Cycladic Islands. But it is also a very hot time to go. So that's something else maybe to keep in mind. So for the travel advisors, again, personally, and for the many years that I've been able to go back and forth to Greece, the fall is magical, and so is the spring. Now, if you come from a very hot and humid climate, you may not mind so much, but it can get extremely, extremely hot, and you get burned easily as well. So the sun is very strong.
Yeah, that is a good point to make. And so talking about some of the places that you got to go to, what were your absolute favorites?
You go first.
Well, I loved going to Athens. Athens was amazing. I'm not a big fan of the city, like New York City or like any like ginormous cities, but Athens was more like a big village, I guess, or like a big town. And it was nice because first of all, there weren't that many people that you would imagine in like a normal city, like in New York. And they also had a lot of local places too, which had amazing food, and it was so nice. And the hotels there were pretty nice too, which was nice. And the people there were really like kind as well.
Yeah, I think Athens is one of those cities that very few really have a chance to dive into. And for me, the first time around I came, I was actually only supposed to be in Athens for a conference for 2 days, then another 2 days for site inspections. And then I had planned to go off to Hydra and explore the islands closer to Athens. But I fell in love with the city. I really did. So I stayed another 3 days. And like Tia says, there's all these different neighborhoods. There's Kolonaki, which is more like the chic, think of Paris, hip shops, nice cafes. Then you have the Acropolis neighborhood with Anafiotica, where the people that actually built the Prime Minister's residence, I believe. Yeah, so another really big official government building. They kind of squatted there in those days. They came from the island of whichever island, I can't pronounce it anyway, and then just built those houses right at the footsteps. There's no way a car would ever make it through those alleys.
No.
There's
a person can barely fit through those.
Yeah, we did have to squeeze a little bit on those little steps, and all the cats that live there.
Oh yeah.
And the love that you feel also for the animals, because they're strays, but wherever you go, you see little pots of water or food.
Lots of food. There were like everywhere you went, there was like a big bowl of cat food.
So there was, and then there's Monastraki, more the hip neighborhood with all the little the clubs and the bars, the hip restaurants. So Athens is one of those places that I encourage the travel advisors to let their clients know it's okay. You don't have to just stop over for a night and then hop on a plane and go off to islands. There's great food to be found. There's anything from street food to Michelin star restaurants. What was your favorite restaurant again?
I think it was called Meet the Greek. It was so good. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, just a street side. It's a little it's a real restaurant with 4 tables outside. They make gyros and souvlaki. But also the first night that I went there, I already had dinner somewhere else, and I saw that they had Greek yogurt with fresh jam. So I walked up and I'm like, oh, can I have some Greek yogurt or fresh jam? And the lady looked at me and she's like, you have a few minutes? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. I have time. And she's like, okay, well, have a seat, maybe some water. I'm like, sure. So I sat down. I see her talking to her husband, who I later found out was her husband, talking to a man. The man jumps on an electric scooter, disappears for like 45 seconds to a minute, comes back. And then right after he comes back, my Greek yogurt comes out with fig jam. So he actually went to the little supermarket around the corner to pick up a fresh jar of really good Greek yogurt that he then topped with a fig jam that his grandfather made.
Wow.
Where do you get that? That's awesome. And that's Athens. So this is truly Athens. There's these magical moments that you don't expect that just happen and make you feel like there's a connection.
That is really amazing. That sounds so wonderful. I'm ready to hop on a plane anytime soon now. So would you say that with Athens being a little bit larger, did they treat just COVID precautions and safety a little differently than some of the smaller places or the islands that you would go to? Or were they pretty much on the same page of the safety precautions they had?
No, Athens definitely was way tighter.
Okay.
In Athens, people that did not wear their masks in the street did get fined at the time.
Wow.
Yeah, and as Thea also experienced on the boats, on the plane, you are being reminded to keep your distance.
Mm-hmm.
You're being reminded to wear your mask. Now, once you get to the islands, like any island, things are a little bit mellow out, a little more relaxed. But the locals take this so very, very serious because, as you know, Greece was on a hard lockdown. They just came out of it. So it's also for them a moment to finally see their friends again, to finally go out. And very few want to jinx it. It's very, very obvious. There's a lot of cleaning measures in place. When you change a table, you're asked to please wait. At the morning at breakfast, in some hotels, it's either a fully served breakfast where you walk up and you ask for what you would like, or you're asked to put on gloves,
mask, social distance.
Always mask, distance. There's people managers now, and I think for the staff too, it is a whole new world. Like everybody has to learn a lot of new ways of how to keep everybody safe, including themselves.
Yeah. And would you say because I know that you're in Germany right now, you just got landed there just shortly ago. Would you say though, from what you've seen so far, that Greece is pretty comparable to the rest of Europe on how they're handling everything and just the tourism?
Well, Greece very, very much depends on tourism. And they had a very, very short season last year. But with that being said, compared to some other destinations, they had a tourist season. Very few others had actually international visitors last year. So they had a chance to work out a lot of the kinks. At that time already, they put practices in place. I did have the chance to speak both with a representative of the tourism office of Crete, as well as Visit Greece in Athens. And both of them were very proud of the fact that we're not the guinea pigs this season. The travelers last year were. And everybody really, really hopes that they can continue to stay open. So it really means a lot to the people that also us as guests follow the rules. And having, hopped from 5-star luxury hotels to, more hip and modern boutique accommodations and anything in between, I have to tell you that the more educated and higher experience seeking ones, I don't want to say it's the more affluent. It's not such that, it's just I see that people that go and look for a nicer place seem to value the safety precautions a little bit more so than your budget traveler.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. And I know it's hard because we don't have a crystal ball, but where do you think the future? Do you think, well, hopefully, because I know that we're dealing with the new Delta variant and could pose some problems in that. But are you thinking that it's going to start just slowly reopening? And right now, tourists will be more, like you said, you got to slow down a little bit, understand that it's not going to be like it was before this right now. Might take a little bit of time, but what do you think that is going to start happening in the next 6 to 12 months?
I'm not even
And
going
no
to
one
go.
knows.
No, I wish I could go there. So I can tell you what it is for us. And our specialty used to be the rather larger groups, family reunions. We work with schools, we work with parents on a parallel, be it a gourmet vacation, be it a pilgrimage. I don't see those coming back anytime soon. And it's a little heartbreaking because that's what we all loved. Now, we do have some requests for 2022 for groups, also students, again, with parent travelers. I think right now it's the FIT world. It's those that have already traveled extensively. Those are the people that I personally welcome to travel again at this time. It's hard for me at least, to accept a client that is going for that once in a lifetime trip to Europe right now, with those expectations of being able to do all the things on the bucket list. I have a hard time saying, yeah, let's just do it. I do urge them to maybe see if they can do it next year. If it's the big high school graduation trip that they all wanted to take together, maybe right now is not just the time. But for somebody who's extremely well-traveled, who has the opportunity to come again or has been to a destination before, I think that's where the real opportunity is. So let's take Greece again. So maybe the last time you came or your clients came, they did the whole island hopping and they fell in love with one or two places, or they know now what they don't want to do. So here's that opportunity to spend not just a night or two in Santorini, but this time not be in Fira, not be in Oya, but stay in those little villages that they also have on that island that hardly ever gets to see. And you can still go for the magical sunset view, but stay for 3, 4, 5 nights if it's in your budget. And if it's not Santorini, then it could be Paros, it could be Tinos, Milos. There's all these other places, or Crete. I mean, Crete is one of those islands that I think very, very few Americans have on their radar. But it's huge and it has so many different regions, and you can spend also money-wise for what you spend for one night in Santorini, you can pretty much stay for a week on Crete. And there's so much to do and see. So maybe just rethink where you're going and how you want to travel currently. Focus more on the local experiences too, maybe not the big chain hotels at all times, but a more local place.
I love that. I'm glad you brought that up because that brings a good point for advisors that their target audience right now is those experienced travelers and maybe someone who has been, like, as you said, you've been to this country before and you want to experience it in a little different of a way. So I really like that. And I just have to say, thank you so much again for sharing all this. But before, though, I wrap up, I just want to see if there's anything else that we didn't cover that it would be just important to know or that you want to share.
I do think the ferries are something that
yeah.
that truly travel advisors that haven't experienced it yet may want to read up or see up on it. And I'll be happy to answer some questions. Thea took a ton of videos of what it's really like to get on a ferry, get off a ferry.
Yeah, I took time lapses of people getting on and off, and it was so crazy because there was like, I don't know,
hundreds of
people walking in front of cars, like running down the ramps with their suitcases, almost getting run over by cars. Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah, so I think for the travel advisor to partner with a local DMC, to partner with a reputable tour operator that has that insight, that knows how to take out that anxiety element and to truly make it the relaxed experience that everybody is seeking, given the new circumstances. And I was just thinking, I have one more thought. A lot of people, I think, have seen Greece, have seen Italy, Croatia in combination on these cruises. So they've already had a taste. So now I think the opportunity is to say, hey, which one of those 3, 4, 5 countries or whichever other part of the world was it that you said, oh my God, I wish I could have stayed here? Then go there now. So that could be the perfect way of easing back into it for the experienced traveler.
I love that. It's almost like a more intimate experience now, that you can stay in one place a little bit longer. And that is amazing. And I just have to say, once again, this has been incredible. There's so much information, and it's cool just to have you both sharing your experience. You've been on the ground there, letting us know the insights. So that is so amazing. And I just want to thank everyone else too for tuning into this episode of the Lounge of Travefy Academy. And once again, thank you to Sandra and Thea. It's our first mother-daughter duo on a podcast. So this is awesome. Yeah, this is great. I love it. But also be sure to subscribe to our podcast or subscribe to our YouTube channel for all of the latest episodes. And we hope that you enjoyed this conversation today and join us again. But for now, stay safe and we will catch you on the next flight.